Here we are. We're on exam 4, problem 3. We're going to do some entries for bad debt expenses, but this time we're going to use the allowance method. So indirectly writing them off. We take the allowance and that's what we write them off to. All right, so the first thing we have going on is on January 1, wrote off account of Confident Corporation, $10,000. All right, so when you do allowance method, you write it off to allowance for bad debt. Allowance for bad debt, $10,000. And what are we writing off? The account receivable of Confident Corporation. Account receivable Confident Corporation, $10,000. Okay, so now we've said, I guess Confident's not going to pay us. We'll write that off. Next thing that happened, received $5,000 as partial payment on the $25,000 account of Cool for the Summer Air Conditioning Company. Wrote off the remaining balance as uncollectible. Okay, so they owe us $25,000, so Cool owes us $25,000. They gave us $5,000, so that means we're writing off $20,000. All right, so that's on 214. We do get in some cash, so that's an increase in cash of $5,000. We're doing the write-off, that's a debit. And of course that's $20,000, right? That's what we're writing off. And then we are gonna have to write off the account. So the account receivable, I'm gonna call it Cool, is $25,000. All right, so that's that transaction. We've got the cash, we got the allowance, we wrote off the account. Next thing that happens is I received the $10,000 from Confident. That's great. So this up here that we wrote off, we get back. So we have to reverse that, right? So we flip that on 4-1. We get account receivable, Confident, allowance for bad debt, and we're going to put it back on the books. All right, excellent. And then we're also going to accept the cash and get rid of that account receivable. And account receivable. All right, there we go. That's done. So we wrote it off back here, put it back on the books here, accepted the cash here. All right, what's next? Wrote off the following as uncollectible. Unbroken Ceramics, Inc. All right, so I guess they're not going to pay us. Write it off to allowance. That's on 1231. So allowance for bad debt, what was it, 400. And the account is unbroken. Account receivable, unbroken, 400. All right. Finally, on 1231, we're going to do our allowance. We're going to set up the allowance. All right. So the allowance is where we take the bad debt expense and then create the allowance that we're going to, this allowance that we are using, we have to create that. All right, so journalize that, $60,000. All right, so what we're doing is really taking the bad debt expense all at once. So expenses are debits, right? So bad debt expense, 60, and allowance for bad debt, 60. All right, so there you go. So now in the future we'll be doing using our allowance. All right, so that's allowance method, bad debt write-off, and we're going to move on to the last exam problem in the next video.